Welcome to Practical Business Technology, where we keep you in the know about technology's impact on business. Today's show is sponsored by the Maricopa County Bar Association, and our host is Dave Kinsey, author and owner of Total Networks. Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Dave.
And today we're going to talk about, do you have backups to protect you from ransomware?
Yeah, or I will put it, will your backup save you from ransomware? Will they save you?
That's a good question, because you might think, well, who cares if I get hit by ransomware? I've got backups. I'll just hit the button and boom, they'll be back. Well, is it that simple?
So, and here, nothing in life is that simple, right? But the short answer is you do everything to avoid getting hit by ransomware, but if it does hit, backups are what you want to go to get you back up and running. So it is your emergency fallback plan if you get ransomware.
Right, because if you get hit by ransomware, heaven forbid, you have a few choices. One is restore from backup. One is to live without the data for the rest of your life.
Which is not practical.
Or pay the ransom and cross your fingers that the criminals honor what they say and they restore the data. We don't recommend
you want to avoid paying the ransom at all costs. So number one, you obviously want to avoid being in that situation. So you want to do all the steps, and we've talked about that in the past with all, we've talked about that in excruciating detail in other podcasts. If you have any questions, go back and listen to other podcasts. I don't want to rehash stuff we've already talked about.
So how do you know that your backups are there and going, and how do you know your backups don't get encrypted?
Well, let me start with a cautionary tale. I happen to know that there was a large attack. We're here in Phoenix, and there was a large attack that it was another IT provider, actually. It wasn't us that got attacked. And
several months ago.
This is actually in late 2021. This is like December-ish or somewhere thereabouts. And the bad guys got in and encrypted all the production data, but they also encrypted all the backups. So,
Yikes.
So this was all the.
And so this was an IT provider that this happened not just for themselves, but for people they were supporting.
I'm not sure if they're still in business or not. So, but I don't know that the ransom eventually got paid. People were out of action for weeks.
So they had to pay the ransom because they didn't have backups.
Yeah, but anyway, so and at any rate, and so that's number one. You want to be very careful about it. And the reason why actually we're talking about this topic is I happened to go to an FBI talk where it was presenting, and one of the things he was suggesting was for backups, make sure they're offline, have them, completely offline. And it's like, well, that's great. I'd say really, at the very least, you want to have them extremely partitioned so that there is no practical way that somebody that gets access to your production systems, that they can then get access to your backups. That's that first and foremost. And then, you want to have, and we do have ways where some of the data is offline, because it is copied off,
Right. I mean, what's a lot of the backups that we offer to our clients are a hybrid setup where some of it's.
Well, it all depends, right? If you've got clients that are pure cloud, then you're doing cloud to cloud backups, and those cloud backups are, and then we have clients that have, some on, they might have an on-premise server that, then backup to it, and then backups off-site, and then there's ways to also have that, offline. But so the main thing is you want to have just super extreme partitioning, and, one of the things that bad actors will do is they will go for your backups. They may create what's called a advanced persistent threat, ATP. And what that means is they will hang around for a while. They'll take their time, knock out your backups so that you don't have current backups. Then try to scramble your backups, and then scramble your production data. Anyway, so the bad guys are bad. And if it goes without saying, they're doing, they're being, creative and thorough in their evil ways.
I think what you're saying is they might actually work on disabling your backups first, and then wait a couple of days before they do something that you notice.
Yeah. So, and this is why, one thing that I'm definitely a believer in, and we've standardized on this for quite a bit now, is to have not just do all the patching and the antivirus and stuff, and this is one of the many layers we talk about in previous stuff, is to actually have a SOC and SIM service. This is advanced security, where you have security that's looking for suspicious activity. Like, hopefully your that advanced software is going to detect, hey, why is this thing messing around with your backups, and alert you, or why are you seeing kind of weird activity, to try to basically avoid this advanced persistent threat. So, and I think it's just essential nowadays. But all right, back to the question. So, number one, you do want to make sure that you do have your backups highly partitioned. Making sure that you can kind of validate that is there things that are completely offline where it cannot be touched by bad actors because there's no way to get network access, things like that. So,
and when you do get access, does it have good security to get in?
Yeah, so there's all those things. So the long answer to this question, now the longer answer to this question is, backups can get you back, but you need to make sure that the bad actors don't encrypt them, and so you take very detailed steps to avoid the scenario where your backups can get encrypted along with your production data.
But then on top of that, there's ways to monitor.
And then you monitor and keep an eye on it. But then the one thing also to expand on this question is, there's a couple things that the bad actors do with ransomware. Not only are they going to say, hey, pay me Bitcoin or Monero or, whatever cryptocurrency to get your data back, they're going to also say, if you don't, we will release your data, and so there will be a data breach as well. And they may give you a sample of some of the data that they may release and all that.
Well, how does that relate to backups?
Well, the backups, backups can't protect against that. But the backups can get you back up and running. So there's two sides to the problem. This ransomware problem is a real bad problem. And so you want to avoid it at all. You want to avoid it. Take excruciating steps to avoid it. You don't want to cut corners. Good IT companies will force you to do certain things, okay? Like, we've done things where we force people. It's like, I know you don't like paying more money for this for this level of security and stuff like that, but you know what? You're getting it. That type of things. And so you want to make sure, if it's in-house IT or whatever IT company you're working for, make sure, empower them, and they're going, and make sure you're doing the things to avoid ransomware. But then when you do have ransomware, and make sure your backups are protected, but then you also need to realize that you may have a data breach issue as well. And so here's where ultimately, cyber liability insurance is also recommended, because you may, I shudder at saying to pay the ransom, but there are cases where you may end up paying the ransom to avoid a data breach, even if your backups are working.
All right. Well, back to the topic of making sure you have good backups.
And you also want to limit the ability to hop from PC to PC, because not only do you do not want all your server data and stuff like that, or other data encrypted, but all the PCs in your environment encrypted is bad news too. And you don't want one PC to allow you to encrypt all the other PCs. Concerned about.
Okay. Well, on the topic of backups, you've said make it highly partitioned.
Correct.
On top of that, I've heard a recommendation to just once a day check and make sure is there data. Like, what's the size of your backup file? Is it 0?
Well,
is it changed significantly?
Yeah. And so sophisticated backup systems will be like, we use a very sophisticated thing that has monitoring that is focused specifically looking for ransomware, looking for large changes in data. Because when you encrypt all your data,
Right.
things are changing very quickly, and so
You
know,
also
bells
should
and whistles
do
will go.
a test restore every now and
Correct.
then. Like, do you actually know how to restore? Do you know how long it's going to take? Are you backing up everything that you think you're backing up? What if one drive got missed? Or, you made a change in your network and you forgot to change the backup settings?
Correct. And so this goes back to doing your risk assessment, and that's something you should be doing at least annually, looking at your risks and looking at your security plan to address those risks, and making sure you're at least once a year, if not more, moving the ball forward and thinking through your incident response plan for what you would do when things happen.
So if I have no server and only cloud hosted applications,
Woohoo, which is what you want. If you can be.
then do I still need backups?
I would argue yes.
So if Office 365 is an example.
Yes.
If you had ransomware, you might have an infection that
You can from ransomware. You probably have some decent protection there because Microsoft does back up data and you can get data back. The issue you have more with why you do the backups is not as much ransomware protection, although it could be to be able to do more efficient restore because you have another way to get all the data back. It's more like you've deleted it, some time has gone by, and now you may not have that data. Microsoft only retains the data for a certain period of time. I believe it's 21 days once you delete something.
So are you saying that the bad actors have no way of encrypting Microsoft's backups?
It would behoove you to have a cloud to cloud.
We recommend having backups.
Yes, for all these reasons, yes. It's best to have it in and this is a case where you have it in two different locations. They are not connected. There's a different way to access it. There's a different login and security.
They're different
to get
vendors.
To that. There's different vendors, different places. There's not a way that, really because what we're talking about is a thing called lateral movement. Lateral movement in security speak is when a bad actor gets into one system and then they pivot from there to get access to another system. Lateral movement is bad. You do not want to be able. You want to limit your damage and to limit your risk. You want to minimize lateral movement. That's one of the things you never want to be able to have any lateral movement from your production data to your backups. Definitely in your best interest from a ransomware perspective and just pure data retention of your backups to have a cloud to cloud backup for your cloud systems wherever possible, which is possible in a lot of cases. Like say Office 365, it is absolutely strongly recommended to have that. So.
All right. Anything else we should just summarize on making sure you can recover from backup if you're hit with ransomware?
I just can't stress enough the doing that risk assessment, which is we call it like a tabletop exercise, thinking through your risks, thinking through the what ifs, and walking through that on a regular basis, and then set your next meeting to do that no longer than a year from now, to where you're looking at that and looking at it. So like to your point of where might you have some data squirreled away that you haven't thought about, like you want to have those oh crap moments when you're thinking about the problem, not the oh crap moment it happened. You want to be thinking. You want to have those. You want to have it happen when you're kind of thinking through the worst scenarios so that you can prepare.
All right. Well, very good. If you've got any questions, give us a call.
All right. Thank you very much.